Welcome to Rage O'Clock with your host, Brett Slayer X, your pissed off host. Just want to remind everybody that equality means equal, and equal means equal, not equal. For example, equality would mean that two parents that have a kid would both have say whether that kid is aborted or not. Equality would mean if two parents have a kid out of wedlock, that both parents are given instant equal custody. Equality would mean that you'd have 50% of men getting children and 50% of women getting children, barring them being deemed by the court or the state unfit parents. Equality would mean equal pay for equal experience and equal time in, say, college or an equal degree or on the job. Equality would mean equal sentencing for equal crimes. And it would mean equal amount of arrests for the same crime. Equality does not mean that because you're an American and somebody is a Mexican that you can hate on them because of their heritage. It doesn't mean that you can assume that they're an illegal just because they have the color of their skin. Equality means that if you are a Christian in this country, that you have just as much rights as a Muslim, an atheist, or any other religion or non-religion. You have just as much right to believe in what you believe in and to express that belief via freedom of speech. Equality means that if we're going to really get down to brass tacks, we need to do more to make sure that people understand that hate is not okay and racism is not tolerated. Equality means that a cop who takes a badge and a gun to work every day should take his job seriously and see us as equals, not as people underneath them. They're not above the law. And when they shoot someone that's unarmed or that didn't commit a crime, that is just as bad as if I shot someone who is unarmed or did not commit a crime. True equality is not something that I think a lot of people grasp. I think a lot of feminists say that they're about true equality, but from what I've seen, feminists back up the female gender. They don't back up males. When it comes to equal time for equal crimes, they're out. When it comes to equal arrests for equal crimes, they're out. When it comes to equal custody for unwed parents or married parents, they're out. When it comes to giving men just as many rights as women, when it comes to battered men and abuse, they're out. When it comes to them having to actually put up their resume and look at the employers look through their college history and how many years they've been on the job. And take that in consideration instead of just looking at a man and a woman and saying you're getting paid equal, they're out. Look, this is reality. This is real life here. If you've worked 10 years on a job and you've got a college degree, some women shouldn't be able to come in and get paid just as much as you do, if she doesn't have a degree and hasn't worked there for 10 years. So I'm all for equal pay for equal experience and equal work. But if a man's working harder than a woman at a job, he should get the promotion. And that's sad for her. But the truth is we can't just give everybody equal pay because not everybody has equal experience or equal work or puts as much heart into the job. There's been lots of talk from feminists about how the patriarch affects them. Well, the patriarch affects men too. If you think about it, when I go to the bar, what happens? I'm supposed to go pay for women's drinks. I'm supposed to be the one that goes and asks a woman out. I'm supposed to be the person that does this or that. Why is a man expected to pay more than half the bills or provide for a woman? That's all patriarchal bullshit. The woman should be able to pick up her tab. The woman should be able to ask a man out. The woman should be able to occasionally buy a cute guy a drink when she feels the need to, without it being a social stereotype. When's the last time a woman held the door for you? When's the last time she did that metaphorically? See, we all want equal rights.
right? But when it comes to gender, things are very not equal for men. And if you don't believe me, just look up some of the facts I'm talking about. 82% of custodial parents are women. If a man wants to go get his child back, he doesn't have the kind of support structure that women do. And quite frankly, it's very tough to get a woman uh, to relinquish custody or to rip it away from her once she has it, even in the cases where they've done drugs, things like that. Uh, so this is something that really needs to be discussed in America. It isn't. When it comes to religious rights, I'm really getting sick of seeing it okay to put the Ten Commandments up somewhere, but not okay to say erect a statue to Satan or to Buddha, or to say, hey, we need to get God out of politics. I'm sorry, but this whole religious law argument that I've seen in some states like Ohio and other places is bullshit. And it's hilariously hypocritical because what they'll do is they'll say, we don't want Sharia law. So we're going to go ahead and what we're going to do is we're going to say that you can't have religion and law, but then they'll go ahead and enact a really horrible, abortion bill. And the only reason that they're doing that, the only reason that they're putting that abortion bill out there is because Jesus, they say, told them to. They say that God told them that abortion is bad, and they believe in their heart that it's wrong, and so they're going to force their religious beliefs and their morals on other people. And it's as simple as that. I mean, this is not something new. We see it all the time. We've seen it before. So if we allow them, these Christian majority in this country, to go ahead and say that they're going to set the rules and set the laws, they're going to set them to be Christian laws, to be Christian morals. And I'm sorry, but I don't see why you're allowed to do that, and somebody who's Muslim or say a Satanist, for example, or a Buddhist, or maybe uh, anything you can think of, really. I don't see what stops them from being able to make a law that honors their religious beliefs or their morals. This is why separation of church and state is so very important. It's so very important, guys, because if we don't have it, then we have a circus in our government where people are going to get elected and they're just going to start tossing out these laws to force everyone else to do what they do, to, to believe like they do. And quite frankly, it's just disgusting. This hate against Muslims, this Islamophobia, is disgusting. It's un-American and it's disgusting. In the Constitution, it quite clearly gives us the right to freedom of religion and freedom of speech. I think that those are the two most cornerstone rights that we have. You can argue that freedom to bear arms is also a very cornerstone right of our Constitution, and I believe it is too. So those three things: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to bear arms are really what keeps us free. If you take away any one of those three, then the pyramid essentially collapses. Basically our democracy collapses. It's already pretty fucked up, but you have to understand that the more that we allow them to censor the internet, the more that we allow them to censor people standing up and protesting against the things that they find appalling about Trump or whoever else, like whatever you want to protest, that's your right. And I'm sick and tired of these groups saying, oh, well, a few of those tens of thousands of protesters decided that they're going to get violent, or they're going to riot, or they're going to do this or that. Well, I'm sorry, but a few out of tens of thousands doesn't justify you shutting down people's freedom of speech. That's a constitutionally protected right. And the cops are not doing what they're supposed to do. What happens in a protest, and you see it all the time, is you have a front line of protesters. And that front line of protesters is right up there, and the cops are right there, and the cops are in full riot gear. They've got their shields, they've got their bulletproof vests, they've got their batons. Oftentimes they've got guns, tasers. I mean, these guys are well suited up for battle. And then you have protesters out there who aren't, and very few of them are suited up like that. They definitely don't have the kind of weaponry that the cops have. They don't have. I don't really see protesters walking around with, cans, or smoke grenades, essentially, or rubber bullets and ways to dispense those. I don't see protesters doing that. Very few of them actually get violent. And what's sad about this is exactly how you control a populace. You basically, what the cops do is they basically wait until a few looters or rioters go out and break things and steal things. Sometimes I think they look like paid informants. They look like people that have never done a bad thing in their life, or maybe have done a few things, don't show up on paper when they do finally get caught. And they're oftentimes people that, you just wouldn't expect would do what they do. But anyway, that's besides the point. We see the news media all the time get right up close to these guys, and they're not armed. They're not, they're not in full riot gear, and it's not their job to arrest someone, right? And you hear cops all the time. Well, if the protesters would have checked the people that were not violent, that were being violent, then we wouldn't have this problem. No, you do. You're the cop. We pay you for that. That's what we pay for you to do. We pay for your fucking suits. We pay for your badges, we pay for your guns, your batons, your, riot gear. We pay for that. That comes out of our tax dollars. And we pay you to do a job that you're not doing. And people get all upset. I saw it on the Portland PD page during the protests. I thought it was hilarious. They get pissed off because these cops aren't doing their job. But what they want them to do is to go shut down the protests so they can get to work faster, or they're not inconvenienced. I'm sorry. Protests are not meant to be convenient. The whole reason you have a protest in the first place is to inconvenience people, to cause them to focus for a second on the rights of people that are being violated, the things that shouldn't be the way that they are. And it does take, unfortunately, us being inconvenienced as human beings before we finally realize that, hey, this isn't okay. This isn't acceptable, and we need to do something about it. Unfortunately, us as human beings, we only understand very few things. Pain and inconvenience are motivation for a lot of things in life, whether it be emotional pain or physical pain, and inconvenience is there to just, help us when we don't feel pain, to help us learn a damn lesson, because we're such a headstrong, stubborn species. But when it comes down to it, if you don't allow people to protest, and you're taking away their freedom of speech. And when it comes to cops, they should be out there going in actively into these protests, grabbing the people that are violent and arresting them. But no, what they do is they arrest a few people on the front lines of the protest, people that didn't do anything wrong. They put them in jail, and then they end up having to release them. We saw over 100 people get arrested in the Portland, what they call them riots. I don't think they were really riots, but they called them riots. It's absolutely, this is not LA. All right. These aren't the LA riots. That's a pussy fucking argument. But let's just call them protests, I guess. Over 100 people were arrested. How many were charged? Very few. Almost all of them got out with nothing. That's because you can't jail someone for protesting. There is nothing in the Constitution that says that you have the freedom to gather, to assemble, but, freedom of assembly. But if somebody does something in that group that's illegal, then all of a sudden you have to disperse. It's not in there. It's nowhere in the Constitution, and don't let anybody tell you it's in the Constitution. I encourage all Americans to pick up a copy of the Constitution and actually read it. Actually read it. Don't be like, Americans today are a lot like Catholics were, 100 years ago, maybe even 70, 80 years ago, where they just believe whatever the Pope said. A lot of Christians are still that way. They don't even flip open their Bible. They don't even know what it says. They just believe what their pastor says. But listen, don't let the cops and the government tell you what the Constitution says. Pick it up. Read it. All right? Know your rights. If a cop approaches you and asks you stupid questions,
you don't have to answer them. If he asks you for ID, you don't even have to give it to him. I suggest you do, but you don't have to. If he starts asking you a bunch of unrelated questions, you don't have to answer them. You have the right to remain silent, and you can use it as a right, or they can use it as a tool against you. And that's the Miranda Rights. That's why they exist. So these people trash talking all these protesters, get out, dude. Just get out of my country. Okay? People have fought and died. I know some, okay, for our freedoms. For our freedoms. And if you want to say that people don't have the right to stand up against people that are bigots, against religious bigots, against racists, against things like that in this country that are so un-American. In the Pledge of Allegiance, what does it say? With liberty and justice for all. Right? For all. Not for some men. Not for white people. Okay, not for naturally born American citizens. For all. That is our country's creed. Look at the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty says all we need to know about this refugee crisis. Give me your tired, your poor, your weak, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. Give me your tired, your weak, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. Not your rich, billionaire moguls, not your playboy, hot Czechoslovakian mail-order brides, not your brightest scientists, or not your business owners or innovators. Give me your tired, your poor, your weak, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. We've come a long ways since then, and I understand that there's a lot of fear in people. Well, I'm scared because a lot of these refugees come from countries where there is a high Muslim population, and a lot of them could be jihadists. I got news for you, okay? If you go into Africa right now, there are literally Christian militias that go around killing people because they're not Christian. Okay? If you look back on the Crusades, for example, okay, millions and millions of pagans and Muslims were slaughtered horrifically because the Catholic Church wanted them dead. Protestants and Christians also killed each other, but mainly the Pope at the time decided it was a great idea to let out rapists, murderers, horrible people, and say that God will forgive you of your sins if you just go kill these ungodly people. If you just go kill these quote-unquote infidels. You kill these Muslims and these atheists that don't believe in me, that believe in our God, then we'll go ahead and absolve you of all of your sins. They went into villages. They burnt the villages to the ground. They looted them. They raped their women. They killed them in horrible ways, like beheading and burning at the stake. And that's no different than what we're seeing out of a lot of Muslims today that are extremists and jihadists. They behead people. They break down villages, or they take down monuments because they want to dominate the culture. Let's talk about dominating a culture for a second here, okay? I know I said this is mainly about equal rights, but this is also, I guess, kind of plays into it. It's, you could call it being a decent human being, I guess. I don't know why people need to be reminded of how to be a decent human being these days, but I guess that they do, But, okay, let's go ahead and talk about that for a second. Sorry, I just noticed you can't really see me very well. And that's fine. I don't really give a fuck. I look ugly as fuck right now anyway. But when we're talking about this, one second here. Oh, God, I hate how that light's just going to be right in my face. So, one second. All
and it's still just shitty. Oh well, fuck it. Well, we're talking about about this subject about Christians burning people at the stake. I don't think people realize when we actually moved to the United States, when we came on the Mayflower, not everybody was Christian. Okay, there's this misconception that we're a Christian nation, and that we've always been a Christian nation, that we have to be a Christian nation, and that it's just ridiculous. If that was the case, then in the Constitution there wouldn't be a freedom of religion clause. There wouldn't be anything there to protect people that had differences of opinion. But the problem is when the colonies were there, before we were, the United States of America, the way we are today, people were burned to the stake for being witches, for practicing witchcraft or being Wiccan, or whatever. And it's a ridiculous. We think about it today, it would never happen today. We would never allow it today, right? Wrong. We don't allow that. Yeah, that's true. But discrimination is still very real. We still have people that hate and deny people jobs, or make their life miserable, or kill people, and you never hear about it because of religion. Because we have the abortion killers, the doctors that went in and killed the abortion doctors. Those people, some of them have very blatantly stated they did this in the name of Jesus. They went and they killed an abortion doctor, and there will be lots more like them. There are Christian militias that threaten Wiccans and Satanists and people of other religious groups and Muslims. There's people burning mosques today. Burning mosques. You've been hearing about that. I'm sorry, but if that was a church, everybody'd be freaking out. But because it's a mosque, you barely hear about it, right? Wrong. That's not religious equality. That's not religious freedom, and we need to fix that in this country. This refugee crisis is a humanitarian thing, and if you're a human, you got to feel for those people, those poor people that are fleeing from countries that are just being torn apart by war. If you don't think it's America's fault, you're dead wrong too. All right, we went and carved Iraq up all stupid, like a complete mess. We created a mess down there. We had no right to be there. Our intelligence was false. We were led to believe that Al Qaeda was there, and that Assam, that their leader in Iraq, that he was going to blow us up with nuclear weapons. We never found the WMDs. They're not there. We went in there for oil. That's why Bush went in there. Bush went in there to take care of business that his dad never took care of. He went in Desert Storm. He didn't finish right. And he fucked it up just like his dad did. But the problem is that now you've got a bunch of pissed off people in Iraq that hate America and don't trust us. And when you sign a troop agreement like Bush did to withdraw at a time that was a little too early, without knowing what you got into in an unfunded war, you're going to have problems. They wouldn't let us keep more troops there, and eventually what happened is it spiraled completely out of control down there. And that's how you got ISIS. It wasn't Obama's fault because ISIS formed. It was Bush's. We should have never been in there in the first place. And it was absolutely idiotic for us to be there. But what we did was we ignited a powder keg, and we started the Arab Spring, essentially. And the CIA was very helpful in this. They actively recruited different various militant groups and propaganda groups to go into countries like Iraq and Afghanistan and to turn people on each other. The thought was that if we could get people like in Saudi Arabia or Egypt to turn on each other, we could get better governments. We could get better leaders in there that would be more sympathetic towards the West and the United States. And it's backfiring on us. All you have to do is look at Syria and look at other places and just understand that we're spending tons and tons and tons of money and political capital on these places as they basically fight their own civil wars. And what's coming home to nest, what's coming home to bite bite us is the fact that these refugees are now, they're humans just like you and me, flesh and blood, and their families are torn apart, their lives are ruined, their economies are destroyed. And if you don't think for a second, after we instigated the Arab Spring and got that to a boiling point, that some of this is America's fault, then you're not paying attention. And sadly, Americans don't pay attention. Like when we were, like Pearl Harbor. It took the Japanese bombing us and just to get us into the war. And our government let it happen. Why? Because they knew that if something tragic like that did not happen, Americans couldn't be compelled to go to war. And they felt it necessary we really had to go to war, so they were going to allow this to happen. And I'm sorry, but this has got to come to light. We can't have Christians thinking that they have every right to police people's religion and beliefs and put it into law. And it's separation of church and state very much needs to be there. Recently, there was a satanic Bible study started at a local school here. I can't remember which school. And I support it. Met other people that support it. And I'm very happy to see that people are supporting it. And here's why. You guys see me, I joke and I say, "Hail Satan," or "All hail the flying spaghetti monster in the sky," and most people know I'm actually an agnostic. I don't really know if there is a God. I don't know that we could know if there is a God with our limited intelligence as human beings. I definitely don't claim any faith. I may lean a little bit to the spiritual pagan side, like spiritualistically, let's say, as far as like burning candles and incense and things like that and meditating. But I don't believe necessarily in a God, and that's my right to do so. But here's the bottom line. If you're going to allow the 10 Commandments to be posted at a city hall or in a state government office or in a school, then you have to allow a picture of Satan or Baphomet, or you have to allow these things to come to be. You have to allow Buddha. You have to allow Taoist sayings to be posted on the wall. You have to have an equality there that we just don't have today. And it's sad to see Christians thinking that the law only applies to them. So, it's okay for them to, post these things. But if any other religion wants to do it, it's not okay. That's simply just, it's hypocrisy at its finest. And a lot of Christians are hypocrites. They go unchecked. They don't like it when somebody talks about their religion, but they feel fine about talking about everybody else's religion and morals. And there's something inherently sick, mentally ill about that. So anyway, I'm pretty much done rambling, but here's the point today. Treat other human beings like human beings. Understand that we all poop, we all shit, we all fucking pee, we all fucking have a heart, we all have, we're all human beings. And so treat each other. Sorry, my cat's being a little shithead right now. Knock it off. Just because I'm talking doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. Anyway, I'm going to go treat people how you'd want to be treated. Okay? It's the golden rule. It's written in more languages than anything else, I believe. I think it's written, it's in multiple religions. I think it's in every major religion. So do it. Do it. And stop being such hypocrites about things. If you believe that you should have the right to do something, then other people should have the right to do it too. If you believe that you should have the right to see your kid, then that father should see the kid too. And I'm sick of these excuses. Well, I don't think he's good for my son or my daughter. Well, take a good hard look at yourself. Are you being a hypocrite? Are there things that he could point out about you? We all make mistakes. We're all human beings.
We're all fighting demons and struggles that, quite frankly, are our own burdens, and we alone know about some things, and some things everybody knows about us. But the point is that we all have our struggles, our demons that we wrestle with, and nobody's perfect. So understand that. Try to take a few seconds to look through somebody else's eyes. Look through their eyes. Look through the refugee's eyes that comes from Syria and wants a better life and wants to get away from the bombs dropping and the economy that's crushed, and having to wonder if they're going to die every day, or how they're going to feed their kids, or if they're going to be able to protect them from the storm that's just rained down upon them. Look into the Muslims' eyes that may be living next door to you or down the street, and the terror that they feel when they hear things like a Muslim registry, like the Jews had when Hitler rose to power, where he registered all the Jews and then rounded them up into concentration camps. Think about that. Look through their eyes. Really feel what they feel for a moment. Be empathetic. Have some empathy. Look through the eyes of a father who can't see his son. Me. That's me. I did nothing wrong to deserve that. Think about the crushing weight he feels as he pays child support for a kid that he can't see, that he can't be involved with, and as he fights an oftentimes impossible legal system to try and gain custody, where he has to shell out even more money and take more time off of work just to fight a battle he probably will not win. Okay? Think about the gays in this country, the gay and lesbian couples who are now looking at Trump talking about trying to overturn their marriage, trying to roll back their privileges, their rights, not their privileges, and make them privileges, rather. It's sad that people say, well, marriage is between a man and a woman, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm sorry, but, where do you get that? Is that from your religion? Because, again, we should keep religion out of politics. You can't just force people to do what you want them to do, okay? Perfect example of this, let's go back to Genesis in the Bible, okay? I'm not a Christian. I've told you that. I'm agnostic. Everybody knows that, right? But I know more about the Bible than most Christians do. I will tell you that. I've read it 8 different times. I've read some of the original Hebrew and Greek. I've studied a lot, okay? If you look in Genesis, God gave everyone free will, supposedly, right? He put the knowledge, the tree of knowledge of good and evil up and said, hey, you can eat it, you can eat from it, or you cannot eat from it. I don't want you to eat from it. Don't do it. I'm telling you not to do it, but I'm giving the freedom to do it. Okay? Did he snatch it away as they tried to do it and say, you sinners? No, he let them do it. So by that knowledge and by that example, if you, as a Christian, are created in his image and you're supposed to act like him, then why are you going around telling people, no, you can't be gay. No, you can't be lesbian. No, you can't have an abortion. No, you can't be a Muslim. No, you have to do this, or we will put you in jail, or there will be consequences. Do you really think that's how your God would act if he was in power here on earth? I don't think so. Not from what your religious text says. Not from what God says in his own Bible. Sorry, my cat's still being a little shit. Anyway, think about it, humans. Be nice to each other. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And when we talk about equality, don't be a hypocrite. All right.